Right. So I hope you followed my advice. Signed up for Slack now. You won't regret it. We will proceed now to look at the module details. So this is your module team. There are a lot of us because there are a lot of you. But you're lucky because we've managed to assemble a really good team. Some very talented people, both in their own field and as teachers. And I think you'll find that their expertise will be very helpful over the course of the semester. I am the module leader. You can address me as John if you want. Please don't spam the module team with email. If you need to communicate with us via email, send email to me only because I've instructed the rest of the team to just tell you to contact me about issues. But better yet, post your query to Slack because everybody answers there. The objectives, these are from the definitive module document. They revolve around solving a research problem or answering a research question um, through a team effort. So the aims are to undertake a collaborative research project, somewhat related to computing, identify a range of investigative methods, become familiar with examples of professional and research literature um, to see how you actually do research projects. All of these skills will be handy when you do your final project, but also when you actually get jobs in industry. Understanding how to do this will help you advance in your career. Of course, you need programming skills to get started, but you don't want to be a programmer only. You need to be able to think of the big picture, and that's part of the reason for this module. The other part is nobody's job is a solo effort. Everybody ends up working in a team. So you need to know how to do that. Right. The learning objectives involve knowledge and understanding. So we hope by the end of the semester you have a knowledge and understanding of methods for investigation of a research problem and the comparisons of advantages and disadvantages. We're going to focus on statistics. And you also should have a knowledge of an understanding of different roles within a team. That's mostly via organic experience working on a team. Skills and attributes. You're going to develop some skills in critical evaluation of research papers by actually reading them. You're going to develop the skills to work effectively in a team because that's what you have to do. If you don't develop those skills, you won't pass. And you're going to learn at least how to communicate effectively and I hope professionally, both verbally and in writing. Now, some of you are not really good at this. We're going to insist on professional level communications. That may seem a bit strict and old school, but the feedback we've gotten from employers is many of our students are not very professional in their communications. We're going to try to fix that. Okay, so in summary, what you're really going to have to do this semester is pose a research question, answer it through a group project using statistics, and write up your answer in a reasonably high quality report. Okay, so some of the details. This is the tentative schedule. We are in week 11. This is due to the peculiar way that the university numbers weeks starting in the beginning of the fiscal year, which is the end of July. So we're already in week 11, even though this is the first teaching week. You're looking at the overview topic. Well, I listed under tutorial group formation. There really isn't a tutorial, but there is a document with instructions about how to form a group that you can look at yourself that's been posted to Slack. You did sign up for Slack, right? The deliverable for this week, then, there's no formal deliverable. The informal deliverable is you need to sign up for Slack. Next week, we're going to look at the coursework in more detail, and your deliverable is joining a group. We'll follow that by how to plan a project, and your deliverable will be a Kanban board using Trello. Then we'll look at research questions, and your deliverable will be your group source code management repository. We follow that with descriptive statistics and a research question deliverable, data visualization, the first quiz, correlation analysis, your deliverable there that week is the data visualization. Then we look at comparison of populations. There's no deliverable that week. Academic writing, the second quiz. We'll look at visualization again, and your analysis is due that week. We'll have a topic on academic integrity with no deliverable, and then when we come back from the winter break, your final report will be due. So what you'll notice is there's something due almost every week. This isn't the module where you slack off until the last week and then cram for a week. You've got to do something every week. You need to keep on top of it if you're going to pass. I'm just giving you this snapshot of the timetable. You'll notice there's something scheduled every day. If your timetable doesn't reflect this yet, don't worry. It's a tradition at this university that timetables take a while. Usually most people have them in the second week. Everyone will have one by the beginning of the fourth week. It's not great. I know it is a bit disconcerting, but that's the way it is. So you need to just relax. Wait until Monday. If you haven't got your timetable on Monday, then follow the instructions for fixing timetable problems and come to the Monday tutorial in the forum lecture hall at 2 o'clock. It's a big room. There should be enough room for everybody who doesn't have a tutorial on their timetable already. If you have a tutorial on your timetable, attend that session, because that's how attendance is taken. And if you don't go to the session on your timetable, you'll be marked absent. All right. This is all on Hearts Hub. It has changed since this slide was made. Breaking news. A new tutorial has been added on Friday at 2 o'clock. So some of you may be scheduled then. But the message is this. Lectures are recorded. So there are no recorded lectures. You haven't missed anything yet. You won't miss anything, even though you don't have your timetable this week, because there are no classes scheduled this week. Next week, we start with tutorials, and those are on campus. Labs are online. So even if you don't have a tutorial slot and you miss, therefore, going to a tutorial for whatever reason, you can still attend the labs virtually via Zoom. We'll post the links on Canvas to join Zoom in plenty of time, so don't worry about that either. And the one caution I have for you is make sure the email address that Canvas knows about for you is the one that you read, because we post announcements about these various links and sessions both to Canvas via the announcements and to Slack also via the announcements channel. So you really want to be on Slack, and you really need to have email connected to Canvas that you read. I know that might seem obvious to a lot of you, but believe it or not, some of your peers use email addresses that they never read. I don't really understand why. It doesn't seem very useful to me, but there you go. This semester, you need to read your email. So make sure you're registered with an account that you read, and really make sure you have access and check regularly your Hertfordshire email. Okay, now the timetable. As I said, this is week 11. There are no classes this week. Tutorials and labs start next week, week 12. You need only attend one tutorial and one lab session each week. Labs are online. tutorials on campus. So you must attend the tutorial session on your timetable. That's because there are space limitations for all the rooms due to the need for so-called social distancing. So we can't just have people showing up for whatever session they want. You have to show up for the one that you're timetabled for. What we're going to try to do also is link the on-campus tutorials to Zoom. So if you want to attend other instances of the tutorials, aside from the on-campus one on your timetable, you will be able to do that. But that's not an excuse for not going to the on-campus session. If you don't go to the on-campus session, you'll be marked absent. And for those of you that have student visas, if you accumulate enough absences, the Home Office may revoke your visa. So just go. Okay, we're going to have 10 hours is what's listed. We're really going to have, about 10 to 12 hours of recorded lectures that are going to cover the theory of behind research and project management and answering questions with statistics. We'll have tutorials, 1 hour tutorial every week for actually what we're going to do quite a bit of is presentations of deliverables by the groups to get feedback in advance of the deadlines. All the deadlines are Fridays at midnight. So the week before the deadline, you'll have a chance to present your work and get critique from the module team in order to improve it. There'll be practical sessions. We call them labs, but they're not really labs. They're video sessions where Steve Bennett and his team within the module team will go over the tools and techniques for doing the coursework. It's mostly going to focus on programming in the R language, which is oriented towards statistics. You are expected to spend 120 hours on individual study for this module. So that's what 15 credits is about. I would caution you, though, for a lot of you, this is going to feel more like a 30 credit course. It's not easy. There's something to do every week. You have to stay on top of it. And for some of you who are not necessarily fluent programmers, you may find it's a lot more work than a 15 credit course would seem like. At any rate, I caution you, do not wait till the last week. If you haven't done any work before the last week, you're going to fail. So you might as well not do any work at all. Okay, so how are you going to be assessed? This is about grading. Your grade is based 100% on coursework, we call it here in England. But coursework comprises anything that's not a formal in-person invigilated exam. So our coursework has two components. 80% of it is a group-based task that includes some individual components in which you pose and answer a research question using statistical analysis. And then 20% of the coursework grade will be quizzes on the readings. These are online, time-constrained assessments that you answer via Canvas. Okay, now, we've gone over the coursework a little bit already, but this is a list of the deliverables, pretty much one a week. The first deliverable is forming a group of 5 people. The second is to create a Kanban board for your group that comprises your project plan. Then you have to create a source code management repository using Git and Bitbucket. Once you've done all that, the infrastructure for your project has been created and you're ready to really start working. The fourth deliverable then is the first actual project outcome, which is your research question. So this term, your task is to pose and answer a research question. We'll go over that in some detail starting next week. So don't worry if you're not really clear on what that involves. Then there'll be a visualization deliverable. This is a visual representation of the data that you're going to analyze. Following that, you're going to actually present and deliver your statistical analysis of the data that's meant to answer the research question. And finally, you combine items 4, 5, and 6 into a final report that describes what you did and what the answer to the research question is, how you came up with it, and what it means. Interspersed among these are 2 quizzes on the readings. The readings are of some research papers that have research questions and use different techniques to answer them. That helps to put some of these other activities in context. And the readings are there. The quizzes are there to ensure that you do the readings. Okay, so this is how the coursework is assessed. There's a group component, setting up the infrastructure. That's your Kanban board and your Git repository. Your research question, which has to be submitted via Git. Your visualization, which is an R program that creates graphs that show what your data look like. Your analysis, which is another R program that applies one of the 3 statistical techniques that we're going to study this term to your data set, and then a final report that ties all these 3 things together. So the idea here is you go and find a data set, you pose a research question that you could answer with that data set, and you do the statistical analysis of that data set to answer your research question and write it up. Now, there are some individual components of the coursework assessment. You will be assessed on how you contribute to the project planning and execution. You will be assessed on how much you contribute to your Git repository. And you will be assessed by your peers as to how much you contribute to the group effort. And then you'll be individually assessed on the readings through 2 quizzes. I want to look more carefully at this, more closely at the peer evaluation, because in the past, it seems some people have decided that the group project is a project for the other members of the group, and they don't feel like they need to contribute. Your peers may feel differently about that, and so everybody assesses the group members on the degree to which they contributed. Whether they definitely contributed somewhat, did not contribute, or hindered progress. We will compute the mode of the scores assigned to you by your group members, and we will use that to compute your net coursework score. So, if all of your peers, or most of your peers, say that you definitely contributed, the mode of your peer evaluation will be 1. You multiply that by the gross score on your deliverables, and that's your net score. So if you definitely contribute in the eyes of your peers, your gross score is the same as your net score. If your peers think you contributed somewhat, but not fully, then your net score is going to be half your gross score. So that's 0.05. If you did not contribute, your net score will be 0. You'll fail the class and you'll have to do it again. And not only that, you'll have to take another class from me in the spring, and you don't want to do that. Because already I'm sure you're thinking, this class is too hard, and we haven't even got through the first week. You don't want to do that for a whole nother semester. Don't goof off. Contribute. Now, there are rare cases where people actually actively interfere with the progress on their group. So people that get that grade are going to have a minus 0.05 in the mix. And if there are enough of those, you will also be scored did not contribute. The bottom line is make sure you participate in the group planning, execution, and writing up of your project. There are plenty of things for everybody to do. If you're not a strong programmer, you may be a good tester. Do that. But the thing you can't do is just disappear for 10 weeks and let the other group members do the work. If you do, the mode of your peer evaluations is likely to be 0, and you'll get a 0 on the coursework. A 0 on the coursework, that's 80% of your grade is 0. You'll get a fail. And you know what? 80% 0 doesn't even qualify you for a referral. You'll have to do the class over again next year. Don't do that. Okay, there's two kinds of feedback. In the education lingo, summative assessment is the things that count towards your grade, and we will give you detailed feedback of every deliverable explaining why you got the grade that you got. Then there's formative assessment, which is feedback that doesn't count towards your grade. And that's mainly going to be comments on your presentations of your coursework deliverables during the tutorials. We did this last year. It was so popular that some groups presented 3, even 4 times. It's a good chance for you to get feedback on your own deliverables and also to learn from what other people are doing. So you may think, oh, great, I don't really want to do that. Trust me, you do want to do it, and you'll see why. Okay, what else? Communication. I've already mentioned Slack. We're going to use the announcements channel on Slack as well as the Canvas announcements forum to make broadcast announcements to you. So make sure that Canvas is linked to an email address that you actually read, and make sure that you're signed up for Slack. There's a nice mobile app that you can install on your phone and be connected 24/7 to the module team and to your peers. Won't that be nice? So some people even think the mobile app is better than the web app for Slack or the desktop app. So there's no excuse for not being on Slack. For you to communicate with me and the rest of the module team, the primary means is Slack. We have a general discussion forum where students can ask questions. Sometimes they're answered by other students. Sometimes they're answered by a member of the module team. All times the answer comes much more quickly than in any other medium. Don't send email or messages via the Canvas inbox to anyone on the module team. You're not going to get an answer that way. We use Slack. You should too. If you've got a private matter, you can email me, but I only check my email infrequently, and I only answer student email once a day. So if you're in a hurry, email's not the way to do it. Slack's the way to do it. In any case, if you do need to send email, be sure that you put 7COM 1079 in the beginning of the subject line so that I know what your message is about. Include your group ID in the subject as well if you're writing about your coursework group. Please address me as Dr. Knoll or John. I spent a lot of time working on my PhD, so I don't like being called Mr., and I don't like being called Sir. I'm not a primary school teacher. I'm happy for you to call me John. Be clear what you need. I get a lot of email from students who describe a situation but don't ask me a specific question or ask me to do something, and I don't know what it is they're after. So I'm not going to guess. I'm just going to send your message back and say, what do you want? Be sure you include your full name as it appears on Canvas. Try to understand that we have probably 15 different cultures represented in this module alone. Even the module team comes from all over the world. And there are different conventions or customs for using names in different cultures. Canvas doesn't know about those, unfortunately. Canvas is pretty Western oriented. In fact, it's not even Western oriented, it's American. So it has a very North American centric point of view. And it's not going to understand that maybe in your culture, informally, you use a different name than you would, say, on a legal document. I need to be able to associate your message with somebody on Canvas. And if you don't use your Canvas name, I may not know who you are. So I know that doesn't seem very sensitive, and that's because it's not. But those are the constraints that I have to deal with. I can't change your name on Canvas. And if you don't use your Canvas name, I won't be able to find you. In any case, always write correctly spelled and punctuated, professional quality English. Email messages are not texts among your friends. Don't use abbreviations. Don't write all lowercase. Don't forget to put punctuation in. Pretend that you're writing to somebody who can give you a job. Because I may be in that position. Not directly, but you'll need a recommendation. And if my communications with you are like a bunch of high school kids, I'm not going to be inclined to give you a recommendation. If you communicate professionally, I will. And I'll be able to say not only is this student a good programmer, but very skilled at communication. There's a program called Grammarly. Go to Grammarly.com. You can integrate it with your Outlook account, with Word. It's really good at catching spelling mistakes on the fly and suggesting how to change the wording of your sentences so they're more clear. And that works on your desktop and on the web and on your mobile app. So no excuse. We're not going to tolerate misspellings. Right. So here's an example. This is a real email message, except that names have been changed. You'll notice right off, first, he addresses me as Sir with a lowercase. I don't like that, okay? Call me John, or Dr. Noel if you prefer. The punctuation is all wrong. In English, you don't put a space before the comma. You put a space after the comma. Grammarly will find that. Same goes for full stops. No space before, one or two spaces after. Abbreviations. Come on. This is postgraduate school. It's not high school. Please is spelled P-L-E-A-S-E. All right. So, this isn't really what I'm looking for. This is better. Notice that the subject has the module, so I know who Harley Workin is. Look at this. It's not even, this person hasn't even included his name. I know who it is because he eventually came to my office to explain it. But look, doesn't identify the module. Try to understand, ladies and gentlemen, I have over 2,000 students this year. I, unfortunately, won't remember which module you are referring to. So help me out and help the rest of the module team by being clear. You're talking about 7Com 1079. What do you want me to do? Ignore the research exams. Notice that in the revised version, he addresses me by my actual name. And he puts his name in. Now, this part, I don't really care what your friend does. You cannot speak on behalf of your friend. Your friend has to speak for himself or herself. But at least I understand what's going on here, and I will anticipate some sort of communication from Luke as well. This is even better though. It's very similar, except there's a postscript instead of asking me to do something on someone else's behalf. He's just alerting me. You're going to get a similar message from Luke, just as an FYI. Now, this may all seem quite pedantic to you, but I'm telling you right now, you do not want to be sending an email message to your boss's boss that looks like this. Because that person is going to go to your boss and say, why did you hire this clown? Can't even spell correctly, doesn't know where periods and commas go, and I'm not really sure I even understand what this message is about. Why are we paying this person £60,000 a year when we can't even understand what he's saying? This is what you want. You want your boss's boss to see this and go to your boss and say, you know, I've got this special project going. Can you spare Harley for it? He seems like he's got his act together. Okay, that's the end of part 2. Go get a cup of tea, stand up, stretch, and come back for part 3.